Ladies and gentlemen, would you please rise for the playing of
the Sibling Rivalry Baseball Podcast.
And here's your host, Jana, and her big brother, Jeff. We got a full week of games under our belt now. So we're officially off and running. Standard, to me, it looked kind of standard when I look at the standings and look at everything. Kind of reminds me of the last couple of seasons. Everybody wonders if the Mets are for real. It's like, well, this is how they started last year, too. They started off, and the year before, they started off firing and it fell somewhere into the middle. So,
Yeah, nothing exciting, nothing to see here.
No, probably the best part of the whole week would have been Friday.
Yeah, celebrating Jackie Robinson and Jackie Robinson Day, celebrated every April 15th across baseball. So yeah, a really cool day for baseball players and baseball fans.
So we'll talk about what happened with the Angels this last week, as well as the Dodgers, and then take a little look around the league. But first, so like you said, Jackie Robinson Day, every April 15th. Now, here's one thing that I think. I think that it's great that everybody wears 42. And this year was kind of cool because they were all wearing it in Dodger blue, which I went around on MLB TV and saw all the teams, especially the Padres and the Giants, to see. And then like Orioles and stuff. A lot of these teams, though, that because they were at home, everybody wore traditional uniforms, white or gray. It's not like they had their alternate uniform on, like the Orioles with their orange on and the blue 52 or 42. I'm sorry. I guess I thought I was a quarterback there. Blue 52. Blue 52.
I did hear that some Giants fans were grumbling a little bit not because of the 42, but because it was in Dodger blue. They weren't too excited about that.
Well, I can imagine. But I got it. That was kind of cool that they did it there. Here's my issue with it is that it's 75th anniversary. It fell on a Friday. Why not just make it the whole weekend? Everybody's wearing those uniforms all weekend long, not just one game.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that, but that's a really good point. I mean, especially because 75 years of Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier into the major leagues, and it should be celebrated and do like big time and do it for the whole weekend. I mean, MLB did team up with New York City, where Robinson played his entire major league career with the Brooklyn Dodgers. And they renamed 42nd Street as Jackie Robinson Way. And they did that, just for the day, but still, that's cool that they did that.
Posted the sign there at 42nd and Broadway, and then they sent that up to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, so that's a cool gesture. But yeah, making it the whole weekend would have been so much better.
Yeah, I think so too. I know that down at in his birthplace in Cairo, Georgia, they had a ceremony with I think they reset a sign down there, a historical marker, which interestingly enough, I just read that the old marker had been all shot up, and they offered that to the Negro League Museum in Kansas City, who took it. So if you want to see the original sign, that's where it went, as kind of just a testimony to hatred of certain things in certain areas of our country. And
Yeah, and what he had to go through. I mean, it wasn't Jackie Robinson, like see, he broke the color barrier, but we still saw, players after have to go through a lot of just crazy stuff. Like they're playing baseball. Like you're really going to be upset about that. Because like Hank Aaron is a good example who was broke the home run Babe Ruth's home run record, and he was getting death threats because of that. And so I mean, having that sign, which why would whether it was kids who was doing it and they didn't, I don't know, but yeah, it is a testament of the things that Jackie Robinson and other African American players went through after him.
Right. Yeah. Just when he broke through, it wasn't like he was the only one that went through it. I was just watching 42 over the weekend, and just going back to some of the stuff that he had to deal with, and it's amazing that he made it through all of that. Really. And obviously, they got the right guy. Like they said, the one thing that's true is like Brant Trickey said, I need somebody with the guts not to fight back, because they're not going to see it as that you were defending yourself or standing up for yourself. They're going to see it as you're exactly what we thought you were. You're an animal, you're unreasonable. You're violent. Even though that's what they were being to him, the hypocrisy of the situation, they didn't see. So I think that they could have done more to do that, to honor, this whole thing. And when you think about it, it's because when they first started, doing things to honor him from different, milestone awards, there were more black players in the league. We now have fewer overall black players in the league than we did 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So now I know that that at least one player is not doesn't really think that they should be wearing 42.
Yeah, Mookie Betts was on the podcast Black Diamonds with Bob Kendrick of the who is the president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. And on this podcast, he said, he appreciates everything that Jackie Robinson did. But he said that he almost feels like you don't want to wear the number because it's his number. It's Jackie Robinson's number. And he just doesn't think that anybody should wear the number. Like Jackie Robinson should be the last player to wear that number. And, it's his day. And Mookie Betts said, the number 42, I get it. He has a day and I would never take that day away. But I'm on the other side. I think you just leave it up there and let it do its thing. So nobody wears it. But of course, number 42 is retired in all of baseball. But yeah, he doesn't think that everybody needs to wear it. And when I first heard that, I was like, no, it's really cool, that all of the players wear 42. But then I do see his side of that number and how significant it is and how important it is, not just in baseball, but in history, in American history. And I will say I was at the Isotopes game, the Albuquerque Isotopes game, and they did a really good job. The Isotopes did of honoring Jackie Robinson, doing things throughout the game. But there was a guy in the crowd, and of course he wasn't sitting that far from where we were sitting. And every time the Isotopes would get up to bat, because they were wearing 42, but the Tacoma Rainiers were not. So that surprised me because I thought they would be wearing 42. I don't know if their equipment manager or uniform, whoever takes care of the uniforms, forgot to put the 42 jerseys
Well,
in.
maybe
I don't know.
maybe it's a financial thing too.
It could be. And I was wondering, well, maybe it's just a home, if you're at home for the minors, you wear it. I don't know. But there was a guy in the crowd, and every time one of the Isotopes would get up to bat, he would say, "Let's go, 42! Come on, 42!" And people around him would laugh like they thought it was hilarious. And I was like, it was annoying, for one, because he did it quite a bit. But then I started to think about it, and it was like, don't you understand like what 42 means? You're just making fun. It's like he was making fun of, oh, everybody's wearing 42. And I don't know if that was his intention, but that's how it came off. And so then I was like, yeah, I could totally get behind what Mookie Betts is saying after experiencing that.
When you first told me that he said that, I thought, oh, okay, maybe they shouldn't wear any numbers at all. And then the more I thought about it, and as I watched some of the games and all that, I realized that I'm on the opposite side there. I went, at first I started like, okay, Mookie's got a point. And I went to the other side because I get what he's saying, but for one day, a year, or a weekend, should they choose to do that, it brings it out, the significance of it. Putting the 42 out there, there's people who may not really know, younger fans or, and they see that and they're like, what's that all about? And it draws you in and you're like, everybody's wearing the same number. It's 42. Why are they wearing 42? What's the significance if you didn't know? 42 is a, I don't know if this was Douglas Adams' intention, but in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series of books, there is a point in there, spoiler alert, if you haven't already read them, they've been around since like the 70s. So, or if you didn't see the movie, the deal was, though, is that they commissioned a big computer to come up with what the answer of, what's the meaning of life. And the big, giant, super duper computer said 42. That was the answer. Now, I never read anywhere that Douglas Adams, the author of these books, it never came up anything that I've ever seen about that. It was like, well, I was inspired by, and he's English, so that who knows if he just randomly came up with that number or if there was some significance to it. But if the answer to the meaning of life is 42, we should put it on display out there at least once a year, because maybe that's what we're missing is that, it really is the answer to the meaning of life. And you have to look at what 42 meant in connection with the stuff. I mean, 42 is just a small thing to attach to a much bigger deal, but I don't know. Maybe I'm completely off. I don't know.
No, I mean, I think, like I said, because I was at that game and there was the fan that was saying, and like I said, I don't know that he had, his intention. He thought he was just being funny, and people around him were laughing. It was super annoying, but anyway, but beyond that, I think there is, like you said, for one day a year, or if it falls on a Friday again, and they should do a weekend or even a Saturday, Sunday, to have that 42, because it is in all ballparks. Every ballpark has the number 42, but a lot of people, they see it and like, oh, okay, if they don't know, but when every player wears the number 42, it does carry that much more significance. And it also brings up, you mentioned the number of Black players in the league has gone down. When we look at managers, Dave Roberts and Dusty Baker are the only two Black managers in the league. There are coaches in the league, but there should be more. And Hunter Green, who is a pitcher, we talked about him last week for the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah, he's a rookie pitcher.
Yeah. and we'll talk about him some more in the Dodgers segment. But he highlighted on his Twitter on Jackie Robinson Day about let me see the African American kids. Where are you that are playing baseball? Because they're out there, but sometimes it gets overshadowed. So there's a lot of work that still needs to be done in the sport. And if one day a year can highlight that and move it forward, then yeah, I'm for continuing for the players to wear the number 42.
So quite a few players that are part of the Players Alliance, which is a nonprofit started by active and retired baseball players, announced that some of the players, some coaches, different staff members were going to donate their game day salaries, either fully or partial amounts, in recognition of the 75th anniversary of Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier. And the donations are going to help their charity, the Players Alliance charity, launch new programs across the country, bringing baseball to underserved areas. Players like Lorenzo Cain from the Brewers, Jason Hayward, Aaron Hicks, Mike Moustakas, David Price were just some of the players that are donating salaries. Every player should probably do that. I'm donating just a little bit of my salary to do that, because the game's got to grow at some point from, and pull people in. There's a whole bunch of people that are, can probably play that aren't playing for whatever reason. It shouldn't be because of the color of their skin that we're pushing people away.
Well, one of the quotes that Jackie Robinson you'll see a lot of different places. There's a statue at Dodger Stadium. But one of my favorite quotes that he has, it says, "A life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives." So I think that sums up Jackie Robinson, because he wasn't just a baseball player. He went on, was civil rights, was the first African-American president of a company, vice president of a company, of a major company. So his life wasn't just about baseball. We're glad that he did play baseball because he was a great, amazing baseball player. But it was also about service. And we also have to thank his wife, Rachel, who is 99 years old. It still looks great, because she was right there by his side going through, what he was going through. So he chose well in that department. So yeah, I think continuing to obviously celebrate Jackie Robinson, not just on April 15th, but when you go to the ballpark and you see that 42, tip your cap to Jackie Robinson and that all that he did for the game of baseball and that he continues to do.
If the Angels were from San Diego, they'd be having a parade right now, because after the first week, the Angels have a winning record and ended up on Sunday. They were in first place. Maybe we wrote them off too soon. We overreacted after the first weekend. I think maybe.
But overreacting is so much fun.
It is. Yes. Yeah. The Angels took on the Marlins and then traveled to Texas. And came away with I don't know how the Marlins they took both games from. They swept that one. And the second game, I don't even know how they did that. They had 2 errors in the game. They walked 7. They struck out 15 times in 29 at bats. So half of the at bats were strikeouts. And somehow they still ended up winning that game. Now, part of it is that Miami's just not that good of a team, but when you play that badly, you shouldn't win.
You shouldn't, but the baseball gods were shining down on the Angels.
Anthony Rendon hit his first home run of the season in that game, and I'll get back to Rendon in a minute. But quick series, didn't really get a chance to get settled in and see what was happening. Jazz Chisholm Jr. From Miami looks like he's going to have he potentially will have a good career. He'll be an all-star. I don't know if he'll be a Hall of Famer, but he'll be an all-star for sure.
Well, and he's fun to watch play. He
Yeah.
really, he's a fun player to watch.
So you know who's not fun to watch? Mike Meyer, because he's either off killing people or he's killing the Angels fans with the way that he's been pitching to start the season. He actually had one decent game versus the Rangers, but overall he's just kind of fallen apart. Jimmy Herget, former Ranger, been pitching overall pretty well, so he's been good. Otherwise, I don't know. Michael Lorenzen had his first start and versus Miami, 6 innings, 2 hits, 1 run, 7 strikeouts. Looked good for a guy who is just coming back to starting. Has really been a relief pitcher throughout, but came here to be a starter. I'm not even sure where to go with this, because here you're thinking, okay, what's happening with the Angels? All right, so they played Houston, got beat. They play Miami, not as good of a team as Houston. So, okay, they win the 2. Hopefully that says something. They go to Texas, and whatever was going on good before, because when they went through, the Angels have a 6-man rotation. Most teams do 5. But when they completed the first run through the 6-man rotation, which was 4 against Houston and 2 against Miami, the starters had a 1.93 ERA over those 6 starts.
Nice.
Thor and Michael Lorenzen were the only 2 who actually pitched enough to qualify for a decision in their games. Both of them would have did get wins. Everybody else pitched under 5. So they go to, you're feeling like, well, Texas, I think I said, was kind of a toss-up. Don't know exactly where they're at as far as their overall team. John Gray, who they picked in the offseason, injured list. How's Corey and Marcus Semien doing? Well, Corey is being Corey. He's hitting like he normally does, but Marcus Semien is under 200 and hasn't really come around. So the Rangers don't really look that different than they did any time in the past, where they got 1 or 2 good players and then nothing. Their bullpen is not good. We don't know how their starters are going to look. And they really, almost every game was a bullpen game, because they use 5 or 6 relievers in every game versus the Angels. But the very first game out versus the Rangers, Shohei's pitching, and he started off with the bat really poorly, and he gives up 6 runs there to start. One of them was a grand slam to Jonah Heim. And I know that they had to make a statement about this, that the guy who's done the damage for the Rangers is the guy making minimum salary, not the guys making $500 million combined over their whole career, not their whole career, but their whole contracts. So it was just like the Angels had 3 errors in that first game, 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position, leaving 10 on base. You're just not going to do anything when that happened. Now, Mike Trout had a home run. Max Stassi has been pretty consistent from his past, and he had a home run. And but it was just ugly. 3.2 innings pitched for Shohei. Now, throughout, Shohei went from 0 home run to 3 home runs over the series, leading the team in homers. So he picked it back up. His batting average, he was down batting 120 or something. And now he's up over 200 and on his way. He had overall a decent series. But the big guys aren't the guys that are getting it done for the Angels. We don't have David Fletcher. He's riding the wheel. So it's like, how's this happening? And on Sunday, Mike Trout gets hit by a pitch in the hand. Now, normally, here's the thing that I didn't get. Normally, I've watched Mike Trout for a long time. When he sees a ball coming in on him, he turns away from it, and he'll take the shot wherever it comes on his backside somewhere. But he's always done that. This time, for some reason, the ball's coming in. He went forward, turned towards the ball came in and hit him on his hand, like solid on his hand. Luckily, no broken bones or any issues. It's sore, and he's day to day. That was after an x-ray. I know that they went down to, when they left Texas, they went to Houston, did an MRI down there, and that came back negative. So he's just day to day, but it just seems like every time I turn around, he was starting to hit a couple home runs, got some stuff going on, and then something happens to him.
Well, he said that he had difficulty picking up the pitch in the shadows because the roof was open. And if you watch the footage, you can see there's that shadow there. And he said normally, like you said, he would turn his shoulder in and he would just take it. But he couldn't see the ball, and he lowered his hands to protect his midsection, which then he got hit with the ball. So, I mean, and everything I've read and heard, I think he kind of blames himself because of what he should have just done, which is his usual reaction, but the shadows were messing with him. So, but it's good that everything was negative, and hopefully it won't be anything that will hamper him from coming back sooner than later.
Yeah, that's the thing. I know that they said, it'll be a matter of, how can he pick up the ball? How does that feel, with the bat? Because you got to close up your hand on those. So, I'm kind of getting to a point though with him that it's time to start doing. All right. If you want to go to the playoffs, if you want a chance at a World Series and you want to win, then you need two things. He's picked up that, hey, I need to be a leader on this team. He's always had somebody else there that could lead the team. Albert Pujols was there. Who's going to do? That's the veteran. Well, now he's the veteran. He's got to do it. But on the other side of it, it seems like he's not playing with the fun and the joy that he had before, that he's like in his head too much. I mean, he's starting just as he's starting to pick it up, then he gets hit and he's out for another couple of days. So I still believe in Mike Trout. But the guy I don't believe in, and the guy that I believe is about to be the next in line of bad contracts, is Anthony Rendon. You can say, oh, well, he's a slow starter. Well, people talked about Justin Turner because he never hits home runs in April, but last year he hit a lot of home runs in April. And then the other thing is that he may not hit a lot of home runs in April, but he doubles and singles and triples usually. Anthony Rendon, I think, has been a disappointment in his time here. He shows little flashes. He's a good. I mean, in comparison, we've seen how we've talked about with the Dodgers and Cody Bellinger. Well, when Cody comes to bat, I'm like, oh, no, it's Cody. But when a ball's hit to center field, I'm like, oh, great, Cody's out there. The same thing. Anthony Rendon's played very well, but I've noticed, too, that the backups, the bench players, Jack Mayfield and Matt Duffy and all these other guys that are there, they're handling the third base when he's been out. And then the other night, he's got a stomach flu. Is he hanging out with too closely with Mike Trout? Because Mike had the stomach flu too. Did they just give it to each other? I don't know.
They ate at the same place. Yeah.
Whatever. But why didn't they have it at the same time?
Yeah, I don't know.
And then we're going to find out that it wasn't really the stomach flu, that it was something else like last year, where we thought it was one thing and all of a sudden he's got to have hip surgery.
Right.
And
yeah, hopefully it doesn't escalate to that.
I'm not feeling, I mean, I was happy, hey, we got a solid third baseman, and he's supposed to be able to hit and and he's supposed to be able to do this stuff. And I've seen him do it. Saw him do it versus the Dodgers when he was with the Nationals in a playoff game. So I don't, he's batting 188. He's got 3 hits in 33 plate appearances. One of those being a home run. I think he had a double somewhere in there too. I'm not buying into Anthony Rendon.
Yeah, he's kind of faded. Before when he played for the Nationals, as Anthony Rendon, and he was doing this and that, and defense, offense, and then he comes to the Angels and he's injured. Like you mentioned, he had hip surgery, and he's just kind of faded away, where you don't miss him if he's not on third base, because you have guys like Jack Mayfield and Matt Duffy and others that can go in and play solid third base and hit.
Right. That's the key right there. Is defensively, if we could use the DH for him. Oh, actually, we'd want the DH for somebody else, and I'll get to him in a second. And then so, like, I know it's early in the season, overreaction stuff, and I said this last week, the thing with the Angels is they look like the Angels from the past. That wasn't really any different now. The Angels look pretty good in Texas. They looked okay versus Miami, but these are teams that you should beat most of the time anyway, because they're not great teams. Texas might turn out to be a much better team when they get pitching back and such, but they just didn't. In that first game, they didn't look good, but the rest of the series they won.
But what I really want to talk about is the intentional walk heard around the world. I even got alerted on my phone that Madden had intentionally walked Corey Seager, and I'm like, okay. And then
with the bases loaded.
Right, with the bases loaded. That's the key. Now, this is not unfamiliar territory for Joe Madden. He's done it before. It's kind of part of his repertoire
the last time
as a
somebody
manager.
did this, it was him with the Tampa Bay Rays.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Josh Hamilton in 2008.
Talking
then, of course,
about bad Angels contracts.
Yeah. And then, of course, Barry Bonds in 98. But,
right.
I mean, and he said that he did it because he wanted to shake things up, and he wanted to, get the players fired up, or, maybe thinking, what the heck are you doing, you crazy old man?
Well, they showed a picture, they showed a video of Mike Trout when it happened. He was kind of like looking around like, what's going, his eyes are going back and forth like, what's going on here? But he said it's better than giving up the big hit, which Corey had a home run in the series. Corey could have hit a home run there.
And even going back to the 2020 World Series or the playoffs, that was the home of Corey Seager. I mean, he hit
maybe
so
that's why
well.
He went there. He loved playing there so much.
Maybe so. But yeah, I think that was the big thing. The Angels did what they needed to do, which was win the series against the Rangers. But the intentional walk with bases loaded heard round the world.
And it ended up costing them 3 runs in the long run, not just the one, but they scored 2 more. But luckily for Joe Madden, I guess, if you want to say that, the Angels were able to come back and win the game. And
9-6.
So it doesn't look so bad now.
Right.
It could have been.
It's funny because it says we talked about that Joe Madden, this is the second time that he's ordered the bases loaded intentional walk. And it's the second time he did that, and it's the third time in the majors since at least 1950. So when they were keeping track, I guess, and we just named all three. So Corey Seager is now on that list of players.
Short list in history
Very
of
short list.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now Barry Bonds, I get. Josh Hamilton, maybe about then, because he was dangerous at the time. He was a Ranger, I think, when that happened too. So 2 of the times have been versus the Rangers.
Yeah, maybe there's just something about the Rangers.
Yep. Yeah, in that game, it was Shohei had 2 home runs in that game, and a guy that I still have issues with. I tried not to. Joe Adele hit a home run in that one as well, but up until I think the Sunday game, Joe Adele had not walked this season, but he had struck out 14 times. He's 5 for 30. He struck out almost half of his at-bats. He's got 2 home runs, a couple of doubles, 1 walk. He's batting 167. Defensively, he's been okay because there's just not, they've been hitting him at him. But I'm not buying into Joe Adele. I was hoping, and then what I've noticed is recently is a little bit of that arrogance that we had issues with in the last 2 seasons seemed to be popping up. During spring training, he seemed to have gotten past that. So with all the things that could be going wrong with the Angels, or are going wrong with the Angels, and there's not much going wrong really. They're playing fairly solidly. They had, as of the end of the weekend, they had a winning record. They do lead the majors in home runs, or not the majors, but the American League with 15 home runs. And I believe up until the Sunday game, when they hit no home runs in the game, they had a streak of like 7 or 8 games in a row with a home run. And it was kind of sad to see that end. Like I said, Shohei, 3 home runs over the series. Taylor Ward came back off of the injured list and hit a home run in his game. I think it was 2 for 3 in that game. And as I was mentioning, Matt Duffy, Tyler Wade, who is he's wreaking havoc on the bases because he's got good speed. He's not always stealing the base. He's not always done it, but he's making them think. And he's been hitting the ball. Jack Mayfield been hitting the ball. All of a sudden, it doesn't feel like we need David Fletcher or Anthony Rendon, because we got these other guys who are doing what they need to do to secure their spot and keep their spot on the team. Jared Walsh has been pretty solid, batting over 300. So these guys are starting off right. Now the question is, everybody's got to settle in. It's only a full week, I know, but there's a lot of potential, but I just don't, I'm not sure. I'm just not sure how this is all gonna play out. I still don't, I'm not confident that they'll make the playoffs, and injuries will be part of it. I don't know. The bullpen started looking a little better. Jimmy Herget, especially. Pitched really well versus the Rangers, and maybe that was his old team, so he's giving them a little something. But
look at me.
Yep, he's picked it up. Thor had another decent outing versus the Rangers. This time he struck out 4, but he did go 6 innings. So for 2 outings in a row, he's done well. And we'll see how Michael Lorenzen does. He should be pitching when they're down in Houston. Speaking of which, they're in Houston, or they were in Houston this week. Angels are off today. So we'll talk about the Houston series next week. And then they're traveling today to get home to take on the Orioles. And then hey, we get the Guardians up on the horizon, and the announcers are already making bets on over, what's the over under on Indians references versus Guardians.
Well, that will be interesting because I was listening. I think I was watching highlights, and I don't remember who the Guardians were playing, but whoever the announcer was said, "and the tribe," and then he's like, "Oops, wait," and then kind of stumbled over his words.
I don't know if this is true or not. I think somebody just made it up, probably a Cleveland fan, but said, I don't know if you know this or not, but a group of Guardians is known as a tribe. So we still have that. So I don't know if they just made that up or if there's truth to that, but I guess whatever gets you through the night, as John Lennon would have said.
All right. So after hearing your lamenting about the Angels, who is your player of the week? First one for season 3.
I was going through everybody. I thought about Brandon Marsh, who's somebody I forgot to bring up, who's been playing very consistently. And he leads the team with 8 RBIs. He's batting in the mid 200. So, but he's been out there solid, and I'm never worried about it when I see him in the game. And he was under consideration, but when I went to it and I started looking at who's had fast starts, who seems to be out there, making things happen, Matt Duffy, Tyler Wade were the 2 guys that rose to the top of that list. And as I was looking at it, comparing numbers, thinking about what I'd seen and how I'd seen him play, Matt Duffy, if you're not paying attention, Matt Duffy's just doing it quietly. Whereas Tyler Wade, you see more about, because Tyler Wade is to the Angels like what Trey Turner is to the Dodgers. He's fast. He's there. He's running. He's taking chances, stealing bases. Well, funny thing is, Matt Duffy and Tyler Wade both have 2 stolen bases. Tyler Wade, 8 for 22, batting .364 with 2 RBIs and a .391 on base percentage. Matt Duffy, 7 for 18, .389 and a .476 on base percentage. So by the time I got done looking at everything, I said, there's only one way for me to go here. The Angels are where they are because of both of these guys. And I'm giving it to both of them. I have a dual player of the week for the Angels. Matt Duffy and Tyler Wade will be co-players of the week for the first week of the season.
Nice. So I was looking through 2, and I did go with Brandon Marsh. I like the Captain Caveman, which don't compare his beard to Charlie Blackmon. Charlie Blackmon does not like that comparison of the beards anyway. I don't know about the playing styles, but yeah, Brandon Marsh over the last few games was 4 for 13, had a home run, a double, 6 RBIs during that time. So he stood out to me when I was looking at the Angels.
Now, one thing before we leave that reminded me when I talked about the over-under on using the Indians versus the Guardians, some issues with the Angels broadcasting. And it's been brought up that the Angels are one of the few teams that their announcers aren't going on the road. And one part is that Matt Vasgersian, who is supposed to be the main Angels play-by-play guy, if you know, he's on MLB Network. He has other things that he does, and he lives on the East Coast. He's supposed to be doing the games out of a studio in New Jersey. So you've got him there. Mark Kubica, who is the color guy, is in Anaheim or LA, wherever they do. I think they do it there at the stadium.
Actually, they do it at a studio in Santa Monica.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So he's in Santa Monica. He's, which is, there's no games going on down there. So he's in Santa Monica. Matt's in New Jersey. And then the other night, Tyler Wade hits a home run. He missed the call because he's delayed. There was a foul ball. He was way off. You could tell. Everybody started on Twitter. He was like, 3 seconds behind. No, he was like 8 seconds behind. So he was missing out on everything. And then his audio went completely out. And it's just, there's a delay anyway. That's a problem is that, there's a delay in the, in the feed going back to where that he's watching. So he can't see everything right on. And then, and then he's trying to talk to Mark Gubica. They're trying to communicate. And, we do this, with you in New Mexico and me here in California. And, when you go back and I go back to edit, there's times I have to close up gaps simply because by the time you heard what I said and you go to answer, it's not like one on top of another, like we were in the room together. And,
Right.
And we don't want the show to be 3 hours long because there's long gaps in between everything. It doesn't always happen. But so now I guess they realized what a bad idea this was between the Angels and Bally Sports. And from what I understand, they immediately put Mark Gubica and Patrick O'Neill on the airplane to Houston so that they could call those games on the road, which brings up a big question. What happens to Matt Vasgersian now?
Yeah, he's got 2 years left on his contract with MLB Network. And I get that the Angels want, maybe a bigger play-by-play guy. He was on Sunday night, ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. But I really think if he shouldn't have signed with the Angels as the play-by-play if he knew that he couldn't be there the whole time. Like he wasn't stepping away from MLB Network to become the Angels play-by-play guy. He wanted to do everything. And I think that's kind of selfish. And, I get it. He's doing everything. He's got a new show on MLB Network, but it's not fair to the fans who watch games and have to suffer through the delays or they're talking over one another because that communication isn't there. And the Angels should be in the park. The announcer should be in the park on the road.
Well, they send the Bally Sports sends their on-field reporter, Erica Weston or Watson. It's not Watson. Erica Weston, I think it is. She took over for Alex Curry, and she's there. She was there in Texas, doing on-field interviews and such. So I don't know. That's and Matt Vasgersian even said, "Hey, that's not cool that this happened, and I believe in the technology, but this just didn't work." And, there's no home run call of it. Well, there is. Terry Smith on radio would have had it. But he felt bad about all of that stuff. But it's like, dude, if you want to do this, then you need to come and do this. And I don't think he's interested in that because he said, well, if I was younger, I would just do it. But now with my family and everything, I think he should just tell him, I can't do this. It's not going to work out and I can't do it. I'm doing it a disservice.
Yeah. I think so too. I mean, he owned up to it, but I think you're right. He needs to just come out and tell the Angels, listen, it just didn't work out. And they just need to, keep who they have right now or find somebody else that's going to be in Anaheim and then in whatever city the Angels are going to be playing at. Because it's not fair.
Yeah, they're going to travel with them, which that's the way it's always been. Another team that has some questions with their announcing team. We'll talk about them next.
It's time for Dodger Baseball.
Since we're on announcing, and it's not really an issue for the Dodgers. The Dodgers are sending Joe Davis and now I guess Eric Karros out on the road. It leads me to ask, why isn't Oral going on the road anymore? Do you know?
I don't know. I was really happy to hear him as they've been at their homestand, their home opener. It was great to hear Joe Davis and Oral Hershiser back again because they're so good together.
They're like cookies and milk.
Yeah. But I don't know. I don't know why he's, if he's maybe taken a little bit of a step back. I don't know. Do you know?
No, I don't. I you
I don't
tend
know.
to hear more of those things than I do, but
yeah,
I wondered. I mean,
I have looked.
He probably just didn't want to, who knows? There may be, personal reasons that he doesn't want to travel as much. I know that a lot of people are complaining that Eric Karros talks too much. I think that, Eric Karros hasn't really done a lot of this that I'm aware of. So it'll take him a little bit of time. He's thinking that more is more, not less is more. And sometimes you just gotta.
Well, he does have a tendency to talk a lot, and he does talk about himself, which, like, you're not playing the game anymore. But sometimes, it's good to kind of have that perspective, but not all the time. But he is always very excited about jumbo jacks. But the problem for him is he's on the road. And he can't get a jumbo jack.
Right. There's no, no jumbo jacks, even if there's a jack where you're at.
Yeah, it has to be in the Los Angeles area. That's right.
Yes. So, he didn't bug me. There's just, they had such a change in how many people that they hired. And it's like, okay, so how does this work? Who's there? Who's where? I've seen the post-game shows. I don't see any of the new faces that they hired. So I was just wondering what's going on there.
Yeah, I'll have to do a dig on that and see if I can find answers for the next episode.
So the Dodgers, who we wrote off last week, as the season's over, just wrap it up, become a Marlins fan or a Pirates fan, or a Diamondback fan, for that matter, because they're done. Are now leading the National League West with a 7-2 record. They went up to Minnesota after their horrific start in Colorado.
Yeah, so the Dodgers played in Minnesota, and I wonder why, when they built this new stadium in Minneapolis, and why they didn't put a dome on the stadium, why it's not enclosed.
Why not? Exactly. They had the Metrodome before. Why not close it?
Yeah, it was cold. It was rainy. The first game, it was raining during the day. They had the tarp on the field, so the guys couldn't, take practice on the field. They put in new sod, so some of that, it's really quick. Like those, like one hoppers, I mean, they like hop over your head. They're like, it's a fast field. And so it was raining. They did get the game in, but they did have a delay. Dodgers ended up winning the 2 games in Minnesota. Andrew Haney started Tuesday's game. He went 4 1/3 innings, 3 hits, had 5 strikeouts, 1 run, and then the Dodgers came back and after the rain delay, and their offense heated up. But the big story of the series in Minnesota was Clayton Kershaw.
I thought you were going to say Byron Buxton of the Twins going 0 for 5. And then I think, didn't he try to injure himself so that way he wouldn't have to play anymore?
Possibly. We can talk about that in another segment. I mean, I wrote his name down in Sharpie. Did you get chiseling his name in stone for the MVP award?
Right.
But the big story, like I said, was Clayton Kershaw.
I changed my mind,
Perfect
though, to
game.
Stephen Kwan.
Oh, okay. All right. Kershaw had a perfect game through 7 innings, 13 strikeouts, 7-0 victory for the Dodgers. But he was pulled after 80 pitches, and that was the
the baseball world collectively lost their mind.
They lost their mind, and pitchers and hitters and of that played along, that retired, and whoever they were, if they played little league ball, they were on Twitter, on out in social media. Why would Dave Roberts pull Kershaw after 80 pitches?
Well, all you have to do is call Rich Hill, who was in a similar position and got pulled while he was on his way to a milestone type game. Now, I know that Clayton let Doc off the hook and said it was the right decision. Cuz said, yeah, he was slowing down. He's having some issues. It was the right idea to take him out. Now, if it had just simply been a no-hitter, I think most people would have said, okay, he's walked a couple of guys or whatever. But I believe Jake Arrieta said, I think he earned the right to go out there and at least give it a shot. And I know we're saying, well, based on, that, and Kirsch said it too. They interviewed him during the Red Series and asked him about it. And he said, well, based on the fact that I didn't pick up a ball until like January and what we're trying to do this year, he was the ultimate team player, which is great. I don't expect him to be anything but the ultimate team player. But how often do you get a chance at a perfect game? You remember, when the last perfect game in baseball was?
No, I
2012.
Okay, yeah.
All right, 2012. And there were 2 of them that year. And people were worried. And remember a couple of years, well, last year, there were a few no-hitters. There were like 7. Boom.
Right. Yeah.
And everybody's worried that this is going to change. The game's about to change, and we're going to have nothing but all these no-hitters. It didn't come to be, and they were worried about the same thing with the perfect games, because they had 2 of them in one season, and then they didn't have another one since then. It's a perfect game. At that point, it's different than a no-hitter or a shutout.
Right.
It's different.
Well, and watching
I
that
don't
game,
care what he says. He would have probably liked to have had the opportunity to go for the perfect game. There are things in this, if it's something that you may never get to see again, if it's one of those special things, you have to let it ride. And what if at the end of the season, what if it's like last year where they ended up with a bunch of injuries and they don't make it to the World Series, or, or for some reason they don't even make it into the playoffs, let's say. Then everybody's going to look back and go, oh, this is why you saved Kirsch way back in April with a perfect game. I know that that's just, hindsight at that point, but nobody's going to say that about a no-hitter. But a potential perfect game, I think Dave was wrong. And I think all of them in trying to play this, I think that Kirsch could at least say truthfully, I would have loved to have done it, but I understand why. And, I'm about my team. Fine. But.
Well, he did say that. Later, he talked to Joe Davis and Earl Hershiser and said, yeah, the next day you wake up, because a lot of people said, oh, he's going to wake up and he's going to have regrets. And I don't think he said that he really had a regret. It was more so, yeah, I would have loved to have done it. And more for the fans, that they missed that. But again, because he is the team player that he is, he said, there's bigger things. And he does, Dave Roberts doesn't just pull Clayton Kershaw out. That's not how it works with him anymore. And, or ever. I don't know if he ever really did. But he did ask him after, the sixth inning, and Clayton told him, one more inning. I want to go about 85 pitches. I will say that Clayton Kershaw, in the first 6 years that he was in the majors, was never on the IL. And since then, every year since, he's been on the IL. So, and remembering that he didn't pitch at all in the postseason last year. So, yeah, there are bigger things. But then, you can look at it the other side, where you said, well, if they don't make it, then we missed out on this perfect game, and it's April. But we also know Clayton Kershaw has, he's had back issues. He had the arm issue. So
what if next time he goes out, he gets injured and he's done?
Well, I mean, you always take that risk. I think that's a risk that you take. And yeah, I would have loved to have seen him just go out and continue to pitch. But I respect that his decision to go out. And, I guess for some, it's not, it's the perfect game. And, it's not just a no-hitter. But maybe that's not that big of a deal to somebody like Clayton Kershaw. I don't know.
A perfect game is a big deal to any pitcher at any time.
Well, it should be. But I'm just saying that, in the moment, I don't know, and if you watch the game, if you go back and watch the game, the last 2 innings, he didn't have the stuff that he had in the earlier. So it's very.
I've seen that before, though. When you go back and you look at videos of that, you'll see where a pitcher looks like they're about to lose. They're going to get a hit off of them, or they're going to walk somebody, and they make it through, and then they somehow end up summoning up what they need to finish the game and to get there.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I think either way, it's a gamble, lying. And it's a risk. I don't think he is.
I think he wanted to do that. I mean, I'm sure that he did what he did because he wanted to, do what's needed to be done for him to pitch all year and that. But I'm sorry, I just don't think, for the fans or not, yes, all of us would have loved to seen it, especially from him. A perfect game from Andrew Haney, let's say, isn't a perfect game that Clayton Kershaw. It's different.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Nolan Ryan no-hitter is different than just some other guy's no-hitter.
True.
So those are, it's fine. And as the season goes, it'll just fade away. It'll come up at some point, I'm sure, in something. But I just think that it doesn't matter whether it was April or whether it was August. When you have a chance to do something like that, it's like, sitting down, you've got, pulling a player who's on the verge of hitting 4 home runs in a game, let's say, or hitting for the cycle. And maybe it's not the best matchup. Are you going to set them down? No, you're going to send them up there to see if they can get that single or that home run or whatever. So just some of those things. And those are the things. Remember in A League of Their Own, where they said, we got to do these things because the league is about to go under and they're talking about pulling the plug. And Gina Davis, Dottie Hinson sees how it affects her teammates. And the first thing she gets to do is she goes over and does the splits to catch that ball. Did she have to do that? No. But what happened? It got people excited. And she kept doing those little things to get people excited. How do you get people excited about stuff? Is you do things like throw a perfect game. Some of those things are bigger than just you and your team. That one game of him pitching there, if he'd gone out, they made it through the playoffs before, he could have gone out there and done that, and it would have been good for baseball. And if he didn't do it, oh well. But nobody was going to be mad because they're more questioning or upset about the fact that he didn't take the opportunity or it was taken away from him or a combination thereof. Baseball, the overall baseball is bigger. And we talk about it every week that the things that need to happen for baseball in a perfect game is one of those little things that would help people look at it. Maybe somebody who's a baseball fan, but it's like trying to get somebody back to into your organization. Churches will send people out to former members or inactive members to get them to come back in, right? Same thing. You got baseball. The Church of Baseball has people who are like a little ticked off about the way things are going. That could have pulled somebody back in. Wow, there was a perfect, and it was Clayton Kershaw, and I missed it. Man, I should have been there.
Well, and on the other hand, it didn't happen, but it's still talked about, and I'm sure it'll be talked about, for every time he gets on the mound. Baseball. And I don't know about what's wrong with baseball.
Let's talk about Clayton Kershaw next time he's on the mound versus the Braves. Last time out, he could have potentially had a perfect game, but he left. He left in the seventh after the seventh inning. He didn't get a chance to do that.
Okay, I'm not going to win with you on this, so let's not talk about Clayton Kershaw anymore, because in that same game, Cody Bellinger hit a home run. So did Gavin Lux, and so did Austin Barnes, and they did it back to back to back.
That's true, they did.
Let's go with that and move on, because we're going to be stuck on this forever, and I'm done talking about Clayton Kershaw.
Okay, then I don't want to hear about him next week versus the Braves.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't have to talk about him because I'm sure there's other stuff that'll happen in that game. But
well, you know what? If we're going to talk about pitching, we can still talk about Andrew Heaney.
We can, and I mentioned Andrew Heaney in the Tuesday game against the Twins. That a lot of people, before he even pitched, they were writing him off. He's gonna, screw everything up. It's gonna be horrible. And he pitched 4 1/3, 3 hits, 1 run, 5 strikeouts in that game. And like I said, that game was delayed in the middle, so it kind of throws off. But he looked really good in that game. And then
I think a lot of people went with what happened in spring training. He didn't look good in spring training at all. And last year with the Yankees, he looked really bad with the Yankees.
Yeah.
He wasn't looking great with the Angels. He was okay. But that's the thing with Andrew Heaney is that he has his moments where he looks good, and then he doesn't look so good. But you're right, in that game, and then he pitched against the Reds, too. We can get to that in a second.
Yeah, the Dodgers had their home opener against the Reds. They swept the Reds for the first time since 1975.
They swept the Reds in 75, the big red machine. That was the first year of back-to-back titles. Wow.
Yeah. So it's been a long time, and Freddie Freeman had his first opening day in Dodger Stadium. There was almost 53,000 people at Dodger Stadium. In fact, on game day, they had standing room only tickets available. The place was packed. Walker Buehler got the start. Didn't look, I mean, he looked okay. He was Walker Buehler, but he only went 5 2/3 innings, allowed 2 runs and 5 hits. Was not happy with his performance when he got back in the dugout. He struck out 4, walked 3. The Reds and the Dodgers played the first game at Dodger Stadium on April 10th, 1962. And if you didn't know, Dodger Stadium is the 3rd oldest in the majors. So that's another little tidbit of history. Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and Trey Turner all went 2 for 5 in the game. Will Smith hit his first home run. Dodger Stadium was rocking on that opening day night. A ground rule double for Freddie Freeman. You're like, all right, it's a ground rule double. But Dodger Stadium greeted Freddie Freeman with the chance of Freddie, which really touched him. He was, Dave Roberts described it as the whole stadium giving him a hug. So that was I thought that was kind of funny. But it, a nice welcome for Freddie Freeman. Now, the next night, like I said, the Dodgers won the series, but the next night was really focused on Cincinnati Reds rookie Hunter Greene. He is from the Los Angeles area, and he had his friends and family in attendance. And, he threw 39 pitches, 100 miles per hour or faster. That is the most in a single game since pitch tracking began in 2008. The previous mark was set by,
Dun.
that's right, Jacob deGrom. And that was last June. So, I mean, he was fun to watch. If you watch the game, also, they were using, the Reds were using PitchCom. And so there were a few times where it seemed like they were pretty in sync with each other, the Greene and the catcher, but there were a few times where he did shake him off. And I don't know if it was the pitch or if it was the location, but it was kind of interesting because the catcher was, it's like he had a calculator or something on his wrist, because he was continually, hitting, pushing buttons like, okay, this location.
I'll just hit all of them.
Like, nope.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah, just go for it.
I need to bring this up during the Angel segment, but Jazz Chisholm Jr., because the Marlins use PitchCom, and at one point he's out. There was a stolen base attempt, and they're watching because they were doing a replay on it. But afterwards, they were out there looking, and Jazz Chisholm has his hand up over one ear, pressed in, and he was like, so he could hear what the sign was. And I hadn't really thought about it until then, because, if there's no issues with it, you don't even pay attention to it.
I didn't notice the catcher wearing the device, I guess, the PitchCom on his wrist. It was Hunter Greene doing the same thing, cupping his ear or using his glove, because it was really loud at Dodger Stadium. So that was one thing that I was thinking about is, how loud it's in your hat, so you hear it, but when there's external noise in the stadium, how does that affect? So that's how I noticed it. I didn't even notice the catcher, hitting every button. It was Hunter Greene with his glove up to his ear. But he made the second major league start. He went to high school in Sherman Oaks. Like I said, he had 13 pitches that were at least 101 miles per hour, another record for a starter. So
this is a kid who got some mentorship from Don Newcomb at one point. I know Dave Winfield was there, and Dave Winfield had posted a thing on Facebook, I think it was, or Instagram, or both, and talking about how proud he was of Hunter Green. What I think happened in that game was that the Dodgers just kind of waited him out. He got to a point where he just wasn't throwing that fast anymore. And that's going to be the thing that's going to have to happen with this kid for a long career is it's great that you can throw that hard and, 39 pitches worth. And I don't know what his overall pitch count was, but you got to, if they're going to be able to outlast you and then get you when you start fading off a little bit at the 6th inning, you're either going to have to become a lot stronger where you're throwing faster at the end, or you got to figure out how to pitch like Greg Maddux and use off-speed stuff to really accentuate the harder stuff. But he wasn't bad.
No, it was fun to watch. He was quick. His velocity did dip slightly. The ball that Trey Turner hit into the seats for, I think it was 2-run homer, was a 99 mile per hour fastball.
So it was a changeup.
Yeah. Turner said we still had to be ready for 99 with a pretty good slider, decent changeup, but he's throwing hard, and you've got to really, like you said, you're going to just have to wait him out. You really just have to get later in the game and see where it goes. But yeah, so it's the Dodger game, but the focus, really was on Hunter Green, which, I don't have, he's 22 years old, rookie. It was fun to watch.
What was nice in that game for the Dodgers is after a lot of questions after his first start, Julio actually went 5 1/3, didn't give up any runs, just 1 hit and struck out 5. So that was a good bounce back.
Yeah, because after he pitched in Denver, it was, the sky is falling on Julio Urias. Is he going to go on the IL? What's going to happen to him? So for him to have a good outing was good. Good to see, because we definitely need that in the rotation. Then you had, like I said, the Dodgers swept and the game, and Saturday's game, you had Tony Gonsolin and Tyler Anderson again piggybacking off of one another. That combination, that combo that they've got going, I don't know that will continue through the season, but if it does, it seems to be working for them.
Yeah, it seems like a really good partnership there. The only thing that, and I meant to bring this up last week, is what's with Anderson's leg kick?
I don't know. He's got like a
whole choreography thing going on there.
Well, when I saw him in Denver, it's almost like a hitch, like he's got, like something happened to his leg, like I don't know how to describe it, but when you see it in person, it's like he starts to go, and then he's like, oh, nope, I got to move my leg again.
Got a spasm.
Or I miss. Yeah.
I got a cramp. Hold on.
Yeah. It's kind of like that. So, yeah, it's definitely different, which, I wonder, obviously batters, after seeing them, they get used to that. But if you haven't seen him before, you haven't seen somebody like Craig Kimbrell with his chicken wing, which I guess he started doing because he's had his shoulder hurt. So, but Would that throw you off as a hitter at first? If you see him enough, you're just like, oh yeah, that's just how the guy is. But yeah, Tyler Anderson does have this weird kind of, like I said, kind of like a hitch in his step. But now let's get back to Andrew Haney, who started Sunday's game. And again, there's always questions, and you mentioned why, but this time he struck out 11 over 6 innings of one hit ball in a scoreless home debut in Dodger Blue. And you had texted me and said, Angel fans are mad.
Yeah. Because where was he before? What,
I think it's the uniform. I think it's the color. I think it's the Dodger blue that is, I don't know. I think maybe there's something. I think Mark Pryor obviously has been working with them. Rick Honeycutt is still in the Dodger organization. He was the longtime pitching coach, I think, like 14 seasons or more. I mean, he was there a long time before Mark Pryor took over. And maybe there's something, like, instead of you doing this, let's do this. And he's finally found it. I don't know.
Well,
this is only a second start.
That's all it takes, is that you go to the right place. You get we know that, he had his times with the Angels, and no doubt he's going to have a bad outing along the way this season. If he can be consistent like he's been in the first two, especially what happened to Sunset, that game's not going to happen, again, right away necessarily, where he's, striking out 11. But if he can consistently give you 6 innings, based on how, baseball is now, and not give up a run or even just one run, but if he's keeping you in a game, the bullpen is pretty decent. His whole thing has to be, like everybody, health and consistency. And he's not been consistent. He's been consistently bad more than consistently good in the past. So he looked good, and he's making a lot of people eat their words right now. But just like when somebody said Cody is cured, which he might be, I was like, let's not get ahead of ourselves here. It's 2 outings at the beginning of the season. Things felt good. Let's see how it goes. Let's see if he can continue on with this, and be consistent. And don't, the sky is not falling if he has a bad outing. Every single one of them. Julio had a bad outing, came back and looked more like Julio. Walker Buehler has had a couple of bad outings at the worst possible times.
Yeah.
So, it was good to see that, and to see him smiling and happy that, he had a good game, and feeling, because that's going to help him build up confidence. And like I said, you go to some teams just have better development, better pitching, coaches, and Rick Honeycutt's there, who always did well. And then Mark Pryor seems to be a pretty decent pitching coach. And you think too, Rick Honeycutt was around while they were turning Kinley from catcher to super reliever.
Yeah.
Speaking of Kinley, he's going to be showing up with his new team. We've talked more about the Braves and the reunion between them and Freddie Freeman, and much less about Kenley Jansen coming back to Dodger Stadium and seeing his old buddies. And they're kind of the same. Kenley was with the Dodgers for all those years. Same
Yeah,
thing.
very similar. Came up through both of them came up through the respective organizations. So yeah, homecoming for Kinley, and then Freeman will be welcoming in his old team. So yeah, the Dodgers have the Braves at home for 3 games, and then they're going to head out on the road. They'll head south to San Diego and then to Phoenix. The Dodgers, I did want to mention in that Sunday game, Max Muncy, Will Smith, Chris Taylor, they all had RBI doubles. There was a 7-run fourth and in that game. And the Dodgers have the bats that were lifeless in Colorado have come alive. And I heard somebody, it was probably Freddie Freeman, that said, hitting is contagious. So when the guy ahead of you's hitting, you're going to hit, because Freeman had 4 hits and 3 RBIs in that game.
4 for 5. He's brought his average up. At one point was down under like around the 200s, and now he's batting 324 as of the weekend.
Right. Yeah. And you mentioned Cody Bellinger. Cody Bellinger, he's looking a lot better in the batter's box. 25 at bats. He's had 8 hits, 2 doubles, 2 home runs, 3 RBIs. He's had 4 walks, which shows that, he's being patient where he wasn't before. He has 9 strikeouts, but I think that's a lot lower than what most people thought he was going to be at this point by, because of spring training.
Right. No,
Probably
you would have thought he'd be up there,
25 strikeouts.
Joe Adele territory with 14 strikeouts. Yeah, it seems like the bottom of the order has been the biggest factor in keeping the Dodgers moving. The higher up, they're starting to do things. CT3, though, batting 333. Freddie now at 324. But it was CT3 and Gavin Lux. Both of them have been batting, over 300. Will Smith's close. Trey's at 316. Will Smith's at 273. Cuz unfortunately only has 10 at bats, so he doesn't qualify for enough at bats. But he's batting 400, and as of Sunday, he's leading the team in home runs with 2.
Yeah. So
we need Max, who's batting 167. We need JT,
Mookie.
and we need Mookie. Mookie's only batting 206.
Yeah, which you're like only 206, but yeah, there's pitches that he's swinging at that you're like, why are you swinging at that? And he looks kind of uncomfortable, and I don't know if it's because he knows, like, he's very astute. He's a very astute ball player. And he knows, like, if he strikes out, I don't think I've ever seen him argue. He just goes like, okay, I struck out, and I get back to the dugout. So we need him back batting. And Max Muncy, he did hit a home run in Minnesota, so he's got the one, but we need him hitting. And he's been playing, third base, playing some second, and then also DHing. So he's got opportunities to hit, but they're just, he's still warming up. And it's also possible too that, he tore that ligament in his elbow, that there might be, he's still kind of working through that. So, but I mean, in the field, he's looked pretty good.
Yeah, he's not been bad, and playing second and third, back and forth with that. All right, so who do you have for your first Dodgers player of the week?
So I went back and forth because there were a lot of guys that, I could pick. And ultimately, I decided, and I hope it doesn't jinx anything, because I'm a superstitious when it comes to baseball, but I'm going to go with Andrew Heaney as my player of the week. 10 1/3 innings pitched, had 16 strikeouts, gave up 3 walks and only 4 hits in those innings. I think he's deserving, and I hope that he continues feeling more confident in his pitching.
Okay, I considered him as well because he did have such a great outing. And then I looked at a couple of guys who have been doing it all season so far. One of them, like consistently every game, no down games really. And one of them was Trey Turner. But I decided after I looked and saw that how close things were between him and the guy that I actually picked for Player of the Week. I went with Gavin Lux because he's just been like in that Sunday game. You mentioned the the guys with the doubles and all that. He had 2 at bats and walked both times. His eye is getting better. He's batting on the season so far. He's batting .320, and he's got a couple stolen bases, but he's been consistently helping the team from the bottom of the order.
Right, from the bottom of the order. And then I also have to mention, because he was also one that I considered, he was my top 2, Andrew Haney and Gavin Lux, but also defensively. I have to give him props. He's played second base and he plays left field. He's getting better in the outfield, still needs some work on that, watching the ball, hitting the bat where it's coming off. And second base, which is his natural position, he's made some really good plays. So you could, and I am going to mention Clayton Kershaw again in his, in that almost, in that the perfect game there. It's very possible, Gavin Lux made some really good plays to keep that going, that you wouldn't have expected him to make. So yeah, you could go back and argue too that send Kershaw back out there because his team had his back, and I think they did.
Yeah, I saw a couple of those, and that's the key with any of those things, whether it be a no hitter or a perfect game, is that you're not gonna be like the kid out of Japan who we'll bring up again this week. And strike everybody out just about. You're going to have to rely on your defense to get you through, and they did well that game. One guy I want to mention before we move on to around baseball, that I think he was trying to be like the ex girlfriend or boyfriend who comes to show you what you're missing out on. And that would be Kyle Farmer of the Reds, former Dodger. And he had overall a pretty good series against his old team. Kind of like, hey, you could have kept me. You didn't need Gavin Lux.
Yeah, I liked Kyle. I like Kyle Farmer. Now, he was a catcher in the Dodgers organization. He played catcher. You saw him more at catcher than at shortstop, which is where he plays for the Reds. But he does have an everyday role on the Reds, whereas if he was with the Dodgers, probably wouldn't. So, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't bad, and maybe he just likes playing at Dodger Stadium.
Okay, it's time to take a look around baseball, things that are happening, not just in the major leagues, but we'll take a look at college rankings. The wheel of IL will make its normal appearance. But first, let's take a quick look at a couple of teams in the minors. Since you went to Isotopes game, how were the big bags?
You don't notice them really. And if you didn't know, because we actually had a friend of ours also went to the game, and he didn't even notice the bigger bags. One thing I was disappointed though is one of the things that they mentioned about bringing in the bigger bags was having more stolen bases, more excitement on the base pads, and that was not the case in this game. They did not run very much at all. And I think there was one attempt at a stolen base, but then the batter hit a foul ball. So the guy went back to first, and that was the end of that. and the other team didn't even attempt to steal a base. So I was disappointed, and I really wanted to see how these bigger bases were going to make it, speedier on the base pads. And in this particular game, it did not.
So how did they win the Jackie Robinson Day contest, or did they drop that?
No, they actually won 5-2. So that was nice. It was, I have to tell you, sometimes in that game, it didn't feel like they were winning, even though they were winning, because of the amount of, the players left on base, how it just, it kind of, it was one of those games. I don't know if you've ever been one of those games where the team is winning, but it doesn't feel like they're winning.
Yeah.
But pitching, their pitching was pretty good. The starter going into the game had a 16.20 ERA. I was concerned about that, but he did look a lot better during the game. So always a fun night at Isotopes Park with the red chili, green chili, and taco race that they always have. If you check out our Instagram, Sibling Rivalry BB, you can see a reel of that. I think the green chili won, but that's like the most exciting. Everyone's like, oh, look over there. They're about to take the field. People are so excited to see.
That's kind of the cool thing about, minor league games is they have those little things, because sometimes in minors, the game can be tough sometimes.
Yeah.
But because it's not major league, it's just, but Salt Lake City Bees, which is the Angels AAA team, they played the team that Albuquerque was playing, right? The Rainiers.
Yeah.
They took 4 of 6 from them. That's Seattle's AAA team. And then they played Las Vegas and split 6-game set, 3-3. That's the A's team. And they've got Reno coming up. Oklahoma City, 8-4 on the season so far. Took 5 of 6 from the Isotopes. And then split a series with San Diego's AAA team, the El Paso Chihuahuas.
Yes. Yeah. And I want to mention a couple of things that happened in the minors. We had Matt McClain, who hit for the cycle. He plays for AA Chattanooga, and he needed 7 pitches to hit for the first cycle of his career. 7 pitches. So he was 4 for 4, driving in 3 runs, scoring 3 runs in his second career 4-hit game. And then also there is an updated pitch clock. The rules are updated in the minors this year. And AAA Worcester, I guess. I looked at the name and now I can't remember how to say it. In Massachusetts, the starter Darwinson Hernandez struck out 3 batters on 8 pitches. Now, the rule states that with no batters on base, a pitcher must deliver the ball within 14 seconds or else an automatic ball is called. Batters must be in the box ready to swing with 9 seconds left on the timer or else an automatic strike is called. And so this guy, 8 pitches, struck out 3 batters. Pretty impressive.
And then finally, the Angels and the Dodgers single A clubs met up in the California League. The Inland Empire 66ers, which we've mentioned before as the San Bernardino Spirit, is what they started as. And in their inaugural season, that's when Ken Griffey Jr. came through. The Rancho Cucamonga Quakes, that were at one time the Quakes were the Angels team, and then Lake Elsinore Storm was. Well, now the Quakes are the Dodgers single A club, And the Quakes took 4 of 6 from the Inland Empire 66ers. Inland Empire has Stockton, the A single A club, and the Quakes will be taking on Modesto, the Nuts, Seattle's single A club. And that's just a little bit that was going on with the Angels and Dodgers teams. There's a bunch of them out there. Find out who you got near you. Go to milb.com and you can find out who's around, who they're connected to, what team's affiliated, and decide who you want to go see. But definitely take in some baseball, whatever it is, especially if it's college. There's probably a good shot that there's a college team near you somewhere. Let's take a look at this week's rankings. Tennessee finds themselves once again atop the college rankings. Even though their 23-game win streak came to an end, it wasn't enough for them to drop.
Yeah, they lost their first SEC game, but they do remain number one after winning a series against Alabama to improve to a 33-3 overall record. Oregon State moved one spot to number 2 after sweeping Long Beach State. Oklahoma State and Arkansas climbed 2 spots to 3 and 4. And then Miami, who was number 2, they dropped to 5. Southern Miss moved up to 6. Then you had Stanford moved up from 22 to 7. Virginia Tech at 8. They moved up from 21. Texas Tech dropped to 9. Texas dropped to 10, and they were at number 7 before. And Arizona, Florida, Alabama, and Ole Miss all dropped out of the top 25.
That's 3 SEC teams out.
That's is crazy. It's very messy in the Division 1 because like 15 of last week's top 25 clubs lost their weekends, and that's how we see now Florida, Alabama, and Ole Miss no longer there, and Arizona, the Arizona Wildcats that are usually always somewhere in the top 25 are not there anymore.
So we'll keep an eye on that as we head towards one of the greatest times of the year for baseball, and that's June and the College World Series. All right,
I was going to say there were a couple of things that did happen. There was a triple play in the game between Virginia and Pitt that was on Sunday, and it was the 4th triple play of the 2022 Division I baseball season, but it was the first one for Virginia since 2004.
And it wasn't a regular, like, around the horn triple play.
No.
Or, a line drive caught and then doubled, tripled people off of the bases. No, this one was different.
Yeah, you had a ground ball that was, and Virginia did had the triple play. Ground ball to third baseman. Third baseman throws it home. The catcher spins around, throws it to first, and then the first baseman tosses the ball to the mound like it was into the inning, but then he throws it to home to complete the triple play.
Once he realized that the inning was not over.
Right. He did a little fist pump and then was like, oops, I got to remember.
But that's the crazy thing is that he was able to go get the ball and throw it home in time to get the runner that was trying to take advantage of the mess up.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that's pretty crazy. We also had a suspension in the NCAA this week of Tennessee's baseball head coach, Tony Vitello. he was suspended 4 games after he bumped an umpire in the series against Alabama. So he will be back. But also the pitching coach, Frank Anderson, will serve 1 game because he was ejected as well. So getting kind of rowdy in the SEC.
I would say so. And yet Tennessee stays at number 1. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, probably so.
All right. Let's take a look at what happened around Major League Baseball. A couple little things. Tom Seaver on the 15th, on Jackie Robinson Day, got his own statue outside of Citi Field. Of course, if you go to Citi Field, there is, the Rotunda area, which is the named for Jackie Robinson in honor of Jackie Robinson. So he's got his place there. And since there's no more Brooklyn Dodgers, Ebbets Field is gone, and the Mets kind of became the surrogate for the Dodgers and the Giants when they left for the West. I didn't think about it until you said it the other day when we were talking about how the colors of the Mets are Dodgers and Giants colors. Come together to be. Now I'm sure Mets fans are like, don't say we're part of them. We didn't become. We're different.
We're different. But yeah, that was really cool. They had a ceremony unveiling the Tom Seaver statue. His wife was in attendance along with other family members. So the Mets fans gave him, a great day, not only celebrating Jackie Robinson, but also another great pitcher in Tom Seaver.
Great. We found out, we'll stay in the East, that Alex Bohm hates Philly. He is not a fan of the city of brotherly love, apparently.
Yeah, he had a rough game. And as always, as we like to, read lips, he said, "I hate this place." He did add a motivational buzzword in there. But yeah, hate this place. And it is tough to play in Philadelphia. I lived in that part of the country for about 9 years, and Philly fans are tough on their teams. They love their teams, but they will turn also. And instead, the next night, he got a nice ovation when he came up to the plate. So I guess maybe they liked his honesty and that he wasn't trying. He was just like, listen, I don't like it here. But I think he does. But he that particular night, he did not, because he had errors and just it was a rough night. And I'm sure that the Phillies fans were probably giving it to him.
Yeah, as well they should. Staying in that area, did you hear what Nestor Cortez for the Yankees did to the Orioles?
I did hear something about that, but refresh my memory.
So he pitched 5 scoreless innings, struck out 12. But in the 4th inning of the game, he threw a total of 9 pitches, 9 strikes, and 3 strikeouts. He had a perfect inning. An immaculate inning, I think they call it.
Yeah.
So, and all of them were strikes. It wasn't like that somebody chased the ball. 3 strikeouts. The immaculate inning. I didn't even know who Nestor Cortez was.
Yeah.
until I
now
read
you
about
do.
that. He's not the only one. Al Downing back in '67 did it. That's for the Yankees. Ron Guidry had one. I don't know how many others there were. I didn't take a look, but it is kind of a rarity that those things happen.
We should mention the Players of the Week, where we really did have a week of games. Seiya Suzuki of the Cubs and Guardians third baseman Jose Ramirez were named Players of the Week. Suzuki has not had an issue making the transition from Japan to the Major League. He went 7 for 17, 3 homers, 2 doubles, 5 RBIs, 5 walks, and a 1.604 OPS in his first full week. He also hit safely in each of his 5 starts, and he had his first multi-homer game on Tuesday against the Pirates. And pitchers are noticing, managers are noticing, because he was intentionally walked twice against the Rockies.
Wow. Yeah, you wouldn't think that, here's a guy, he's just a new guy coming up, I mean, he's a lot of potential, but you don't know. He's already getting that kind of respect.
Yep.
Speaking of Japanese players that will someday be in the major leagues and getting respect. Remember last week we talked about the kid Sasaki, Roki Sasaki?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Throw in the first perfect game in NPB history, or not history, but in 28 years.
Yeah.
He almost did it again in his next outing. He struck out the side in the 8th before being pulled, and scores tied 0-0. He'd thrown 102 pitches, and he was perfect at that point. So, what's that? 17 innings of perfect baseball.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So that means he's retired the last 52 batters that he faced. His ERA is 1.16 in 4 starts this season. He's only allowed 7 hits. He's walked 2 in his outings and struck out 56 over 31 innings pitched.
Amazing.
Now the question is, can he come and do that in major leagues?
Before we get to the will of IL, I do want to mention we have 2 pitchers that have announced their retirement. Jake Arrieta, the former Cy Young winner, is retiring after 12 seasons. And Tony Watson, the left-handed reliever, is also retiring after 11 seasons.
We mentioned earlier that the Angels sent David Fletcher to the IL with, I think, a hip issue. Me, I'm spinning the wheel in hopes of some obliques on this week's Wheel of IL.
So one of
Where's the Wheel of Ill?
The will of ill. Well, it works, right? I want to mention Ronald Acuna Jr. He obviously has been on the IL for a long time because of, with his knee surgery. And he may be making his season debut as soon as May, which is coming up pretty fast. So he's been moved to the 10-day IL. John Means, the starting pitcher for Baltimore, has been placed on the 60-day IL with an elbow injury. We'll see, it's the Orioles. What does that mean? Doesn't mean anything. Probably not, but he's a 60-day IL. And one of the things that's popping up, and you kind of forgot about it. I mean, obviously it's still there and you can still get it, but is COVID. The COVID IL is still out there. And the Boston Red Sox put Kevin Plawecki, their catcher, on the COVID-19 IL. And the Oakland A's put 6 of their players on the COVID IL. So, and when I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, because most things are, open and you just don't think about it anymore.
You don't have to wear mask as much.
Yeah. So there's that. And then Jonathan India, the Rookie of the Year for Cincinnati last year, the third baseman, he's listed as day-to-day. They're not sure if he's going to be on the injured list, though. He did. It looked like he was it was in the game against the Dodgers. looked like he was kind of grabbing at a hamstring. So we'll watch that and see. And then Garrett Hampson of the Rockies was placed on the 10-day IL with a hand injury. Javi Baez has a thumb injury and is on the IL, along with Jose Altuve of the Asterix. Now he's considered day-to-day, but he also has a hamstring injury. And for the Dodgers, Blake Trinan is listed as day-to-day, but I don't know why. So I'll have to figure that out. And Caleb Ferguson, who had Tommy John surgery, he's been on the 60-day IL. He's been moved to the 10-day IL because they are expecting him to return in May. And Tommy Conley also has been moved up. Now, the only one that continues to be the elephant in the room is Trevor Bauer, who I mentioned this because he's listed on the IL, is because he's on administrative leave through April 22nd. So we'll see what happens with that. And then Byron Buxton, the perennial is going to be the MVP. He is listed as day-to-day because he suffered a right knee injury. Sonny Gray, hamstring injury. Taijuan Walker is shoulder injury for the Mets. And Brandon Nimmo, I didn't mention him, but he was also put on the COVID IL. So that's something, like I said, we still need to watch to see. Pitching woes for the Padres. Austin Adams has been shut down for at least 6 weeks with forearm injury. And Mitch Haniger, another one on the COVID IL. Wander Franco, quadriceps injury. So he's on the 10-day. And then the other guys that we mentioned, John Gray, and that have been on there, they're still spinning around. You mentioned David Fletcher. Mike Trout, of course, you mentioned is day-to-day. And the same thing with Anthony Rendon. We'll see how long that stomach bug lasts. But that is the will of IL/COVID IL, because we have to separate them. They have to be 6 feet apart.
At least. All right. Big news out of St. Louis. Albert Pujols has 2 home runs so far this season. He's up to 681. So he's closing in, as I read somewhere. I don't know that he's closing in yet on Alex Rodriguez. Alex Rodriguez has 696. So there's still a little ways to go, but Albert's 5 for 15, batting .333. He's only played in 4 games, so it's not like this is some huge thing. But he's maybe he's just happy to be back home and with the Cardinals. But hopefully he can get those 19 home runs between now and September, and or early October. And,
yeah, that would be awesome.
Get to 700. I would love to see that. Yeah, he might have a chance to hit some down in Miami, as the Cardinals are taking on the Marlins this week. Like we talked about, Dodgers, Braves. That should be a pretty decent series. Other than that, not really too many big. The Royals and the Twins play each other as far as that kind of inter division matchup. The Angels and the Asterix. Other than that, not a lot of huge games to look for this week as far as the series going. Giants and the Mets will be matching up. But other than that, not really. It's one of those, you're not going to have Yankees Red Sox matchups every day. Giants Dodgers matchups every day. I know it seems like the Red Sox and the Yankees play every day, but alas, no. Although you will have later this week, we will have the Dodgers and the Padres, as we mentioned previously. Rangers and A's. So always good baseball. Like I said, check out your local teams, high school, little league, college, minor leagues. Plenty of baseball to go around. All right, we're going to close up shop for this edition of the Sibling Rivalry Baseball Podcast. Just as a reminder, you can find us on our website, siblingrivalrybb.com, on Twitter, Sibling Rivalry BB without the A, Facebook and Instagram, Sibling Rivalry BB with the A. Next week, we'll be back to talk about what happened when the Braves visit Freddie's new house. How hospitable was he? Were they all happy to see each other after all the bad things that were being said? I don't think all the players maybe had an issue, but there was some John going back and forth there. Do you think Ronald Acuna Jr. made the trip? We'll have to wait and see.
That's a good question. Yeah, is he there?
So we'll talk about all that and all the other cool stuff that might happen in this next week of baseball. Until then, remember to swing away and tell a friend or even a stranger about Sibling Rivalry Baseball Podcast.
You're out!